Hi, so this is editing Michi right now, and I wanted to say this before, I get into the actual audio of the video for the topic that I'm going to be talking about. It's a very serious topic. It's not a jokey topic. It's not funny. I'm actually very angry, but I also need to give credit where credit's due. Ironically enough, I did this audio back when I only saw one video about it and did my own research. Now, since then, I've seen people such as CreephshowArt, ReadytoGlare, what's his name? Pierre XO, and a lot of other people talking about it and sharing their own stories. And something I wanted to point out, especially with Creepshow's video, is how she brought up how she had a friend in high school that was adopted, and because of that, once her adopted family had a real kid, like a kid of their own, they treated her like dirt. And that's also just proof of the topic of this video, being that it's a lot more common than we would like to think, and I just wanted to share that out there. Again, credit where credit's due. So, yeah, alright, we're gonna get into the audio now. Bye. Hey, so this is a video I wasn't planning on making, and wasn't the original video that was going to go up this week, but I feel like this is a very hot topic issue, and the sad thing is, this sort of thing has been happening for years. This isn't my normal fun, happy-go-lucky, making jokes self, because if you're new here, I take stuff that happens with kids very seriously. My first job as an adult was working in the public school system. I've talked about it in on my YouTube videos and stuff. I have a very close bond with kids, and I have also seen a lot in my life from just experiences with my friends, my family, my friends and their families, and just other instances like that. And so it's bothering me right now because now, normally when I make videos, okay, I can't not talk about the people in this video or not use them in the title. I really do not like doing that, because when I make topic videos, I like more so talking about the topic as a whole, which is something I am going to be doing, but I hate to say it, it's not going to be as algorithmic as, it normally would be, and I really wouldn't know what to title it if not what's going on right now. So this has to do with the Myka, however you say her name, stauffer situation, who I had literally never heard about since today, the time of recording this, but this isn't new, and I'm happy it's getting traction now, but this sort of thing has been worldwide. Well, I shouldn't say worldwide. I really should. Nationwide. I live in America. I live in California. Nationwide since I was a kid. And I'm 27 at the time of recording this. And this stuff's been going on for literally years. It's been talked about in shows. It's been talked about in the media, but not so much in the news media as it is now. Because people are upset and they're angry, but this sort of stuff sadly happens all the time. Now, there's a lot I can go into with the Myka stauffer situation and just everything that's going on right now, but I feel more comfortable if you find other videos about that. All I'm gonna say is that Myka is a YouTuber who's a family vlogger YouTuber and does a lot of mommy content. Her husband's a YouTuber, at least I believe he's her husband. If not, he's her partner. They have a bunch of kids from the research I've been gathering, blood kids. And she made it big on her YouTube because of, from what I've found, it's hard because, they're trying to hide stuff now, but a lot of stuff was crowdfunded, a lot of stuff. Her biggest videos was her adopting this little boy who, the little boy is, he has disabilities. Now, I've heard different things, so that's why it's hard for me to say. Some people are saying autistic, some people are saying he has a detachment disorder, some people are saying there's other issues here, which I know autism is an umbrella term, and it's it's a lot, and it's hard to find what it is, but we'll just say, for the sake of this, that the little boy, which is terrible to have to put it this way, but it's the only way I can think of it, he wasn't the perfect adopted kid, okay? He wasn't the cookie cutter, this kid's gonna do exactly what I picture them to be like in my head when I want to adopt a kid. Because kids, sadly, are like animals. You know, when an animal passes away and someone instantly gets a pet because they want that pet back, but then they're surprised that the new pet acts literally nothing like their old pet, and then they get angry and upset that their expectations weren't met. This child did not meet the expectations of the parents. Now, the reason why I say this is because it has come out that they did not realize what they were signing up for with a special needs kid, and a lot of people don't. And something that I have to agree with, because a lot of people are saying, you know, oh, blah, blah, blah. No, like, for the parents who, like, when they try to adopt, they have, like, very strict rules and guidelines for the kids they need to adopt. A lot of people try to guilt trip them to, like, no, every kid... Realistically, I hate to say this, we do not live in a perfect society where anybody can take care of special needs kids. They can't. Plus, when... especially, and I'm going to use this with the, the umbrella that is autism, the big spectrum that is that falls under that umbrella and the issues with it. There are people who are extremely high functioning and there are extremely low functioning. Now, why is that? Nobody knows. Everybody's different. That has to go with a lot of disabilities and issues that some people have. You know, when people have other issues here. Like, I'm trying to be very specific with my wordage. I really should have written stuff down, but I didn't want to because this is going to have a story time in it, and it's not a fun story time. This is one I've definitely talked about on my channel before, but definitely in live streams. I don't believe I've ever made a video about it or anything. Maybe I have. If I have, I'm just going to retell it here. But this is a proof that the foster care and adoption system has sadly always been like this, you know. And when I was young, when I was in elementary school, I have a brother, a younger brother. I'm the oldest, and he's only 2 years younger than me. He was very young, so he was probably in either kindergarten or first grade, maybe second. It's within that time frame because he was very small and I was still in the school at the time. And so we were going to one of his friends' houses, all right? And me being the big sister, we were able to walk to their house after school, and we did. And I noticed things right away were odd in this house. Just because it was a big house. It was a lot bigger than the house we had, but there were things that I thought were very, very odd. And as a kid, people do not give kids enough credit for how they might not understand what they are seeing, but they do take note of a lot of things, okay? Because that happened to me. A lot of stuff my family did as a kid, I thought was normal until I met other kids. Same with that's kind of how, things happen. It's also why we have things like schools and public things, so that, like, we can socialize and learn that, the whole world isn't in a bubble. Anyway. So, I went to my brother's friend's house, and I'm going to call the friend, because I have to use names for this one. We're going to call the friend M&M, and the parents are going to be Peanut and Butter, okay? Just easier that way. So we're going to have it be, so M&M took us there, and M&M's house was very big, but there were odd things about the house I'd never seen before. These odd things, which have stayed in my mind all these years later, because I've never since seen a house like this, but my parents do real estate. My mom has seen a lot of people like the Peanut Butter family out there. Now, they had locks on things, like the refrigerator and the cabinetry, and there was this, like, when you go into a store normally, and if they have, like, a little air conditioning thing, it's, like, plasticed off and usually locked. That's what it was, but in their own house. And I thought, as a kid, that was really weird. Now, Eminem had a couple siblings, and didn't think much of it, and one day when we were there, a bunch of kids came over. And now these were kids all races, all age ranges. I can't remember the number, but I remember that none of them looked like Eminem or the Peanut Butter Family at all, biologically. Okay, and it all looked like, because I did a lot of, I was tutored a lot as a kid, and I, went to some of those like learning centers and stuff, and I also live in Southern California. I grew up in a melting pot, but because of that, it was so odd to me that like all these kids were suddenly at Eminem's house, and I was like, oh, is something going on? I don't remember the exact verbiage because it was so many years ago, but it was something along the lines of, oh, does your mom do like daycare or something going on? Or like, do you have older siblings? This kind of thing. And Eminem, being the little kid that they were, pretty much was just like, no, they're just my siblings. We get new ones all the time. And I was like, huh? And my brother was like, huh? And the, parents came in, or one of the parents came in, and, they talked to us. They were like, oh, hi, you must be Michie and, Michelle's brother, and like, and they just talked to us and, like, unlocked stuff to give us snacks and things, and, like, why don't you take them up to, like, the media room and all this stuff, and And so, once we went upstairs, it was really cool. They had this, like, play area section, and it was full of toys. It was full of toys and, like, DVDs, or not DVDs, VHSs. It was the 90s. 90s, Michelle. You gotta remember that. It was the 90s. And like VHSs, and it was a really cool like game room loft area. And in the loft area of the second story, it went into like bedrooms, And I remember asking like, oh yeah, like, oh, so like, do your parents do adoption or something? And Eminem was a little kid and he didn't fully understand. And he was like, oh yeah, something like that. Like, we get brothers and sisters all the time, but they usually don't stay that long. And I was like, what do you mean they don't stay that long? Like, I knew about adoption from, like, movies and stuff, but I'd never heard of this process, right? Now, I need to say this because it is important. There are temporary homes, I forget the exact verbiage, but there are temporary homes that will take people in as, like, it's sad to say, take kids in the foster care system as, like, a temporary rehoming situation to find them a forever home. This, I found out years later, was not one of those situations, because I can already see people being like, oh, well, that's a thing that happened. No, this was not one of those situations. I know that for a fact. Now, years later. I won't go into details why, but I know for a fact that they were not the stepping stone to having a temporary center. Now, what happened was, we were talking and having lunch and stuff and playing and having a good time, but the kids were all different ages. They weren't like our age. They weren't elementary school kid age. Almost none of them were, except for Eminem's like biological sibling, who was either a couple years older, a couple years younger. Again, sorry, this was years ago. Key things are what stood out to me, not a lot of the details. Sorry, I can't be that detailed in the story time. So, we played, had fun, and I remember it's a bad habit, but because of what my parents did, my parents worked in real estate. My parents always asked people like, what do you do? Blah, blah, blah. And it was just a habit that I had picked up because my parents would always take us a lot of places, So when I was chatting with the parents, we were having a good time. I remember just asking like, oh, what do you guys do? Or, what's your job or something? And peanut and butter, because again, don't remember if it was the dad or the mom, but pretty much said like, oh, well, our job is we take care of these kids. And I remember being like, oh, like a babysitter? And they're like, no, we get paid to take in these kids, because in the foster care system, it is different from, trying to fully adopt into a forever home. But when you're in foster care, the government gives these people money to take care of them so the kids could have somewhat of a normal life. From what I understand, after paying for all the adoption fees and fully adopting a kid, you don't get benefits. You might, this is a very might get some tax write-offs in some states, but I don't believe so. Just like, you would get tax write-offs if you have blood kids. But from what I understand and what I've learned over the years, you do not get paid to have kids when you adopt them. Once you've fully gone through the full adoption process, the kid is yours, and you still pay for your kids, but the government doesn't give you money for that. So, anyway, I thought that was very odd, and it never sat well with me that people could have money just, having kids. And so what ended up happening was later on in that day, I don't remember how long we were there, but we got to see, see the bedrooms, and we got to see Eminem's room and Eminem's siblings' room, because they each got their own room. But all of the foster care kids were in one room with triple bunk beds, and it was just a bedroom full of beds and like a closet. That was it. And it felt so weird to me, even as a little kid. I didn't like that feeling. And the kids were in there just doing whatever. Some were doing their homework. Some were watching TV. So that was it. And it didn't sit well with me. And so I remember, telling my mom about this. And when we went home, and my mom talked to them about it. And my mom just said that you guys are never going over there again. And yeah, and for years I never questioned it, but I remember I randomly thought about it again, and I talked to my mom about that, and my mom pretty much found out that, yeah, they didn't work at all. They got anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 at the time. Now, again, there's inflation, but because my mother knew this, and she told me this, because there was a time where they went to my mom to see if she could sell their house, and she had to check their tax records and stuff. Like, if you want to go get, a house and go with a real estate agent, you usually have to, you have to submit how you make money, or else the bank isn't going to give you a loan. But they didn't work. They made their income off of taking in kids until they were 18 and then kicking them out. And apparently they had been doing that 4 years before they had their own kids. But once they had their own kids, they started spoiling their own kids. But they literally would just take in as many as they legally could in their house, because they were looking for a big house so they could take in more kids, so they could take in more money, so they didn't have to work. And that's why mom wasn't going to work with them anymore. And we didn't go over there anymore. My brother was still friends with that friend for quite a few years in elementary school, and they just drifted apart. But that's back in the 90s. And that's just one story. I know people in other states who had terrible stories of that. This has been a problem forever, because the government wants people to incentivize to take in these kids who didn't get a choice. They didn't get a choice to be born. And there's a big debate here. I'm going to be blunt. I normally don't like to get political on my channel, but I am pro-choice, because I believe you have the choice to do whatever you want with your body, your choice, your options. But once you bring in a life into this world, they didn't get a choice. We didn't choose to exist or be born. Okay? That's on you. And there are other ways, there are systems and stuff like that, but making it so people literally don't have to work, so they're incentivized to just take in these kids and have the bare minimum. Like I said, this is the 90s, so things might have changed, but hearing about what happened now, these people tried adopting. There isn't much, I can't see a reason why, when they have a bunch of kids on their own, and then when the kid wasn't the perfect example of what they thought the kid was going to be, they realized it was going to be too much work, and they didn't do the research. And things like YouTube can be a blessing and a curse, because there are so many people now who just think, because the mother admitted that when she thought she could take in a problem kid is because she watched a bunch of YouTube videos on it and she was a nurse. Not everybody can do that. Of course it wasn't going to work out. Having frustrations that your child with disabilities that you knew about when you adopted them and you made money off of them, it wasn't going to be a cakewalk. It's like, surprise, surprise. It's a terrible, terrible thing that's happening. And that poor boy, even, because I hope he gets rehomed into a place that takes really good care of him and has really good issue and is able to handle his issues and give him love and support like he needs. But now that's out there forever. That kid's gonna find out, unless they change his name legally and change a bunch of stuff, that when he gets older, that some stupid freaking rich people who didn't know what the hell they were doing and they thought it would be fun to adopt a kid, because that's sure what it seems like to me. Because they don't need the money from what it seems like. They both have very, very successful YouTube channels. You know, they make a lot of money in other ways. The dad, I hear, does like detailed car work, which there's money in that if you know how to do it right, which apparently he does. Why did you take in this kid unless you thought it was like a pet? Okay? Kids are not pets. I know I used the analogy earlier of like, you know, thinking it's going to be, but that's how it is. When you give birth to something, now I'm not a mom. I need to say this right now. I am not a mom. I have pets, but I am a godmom. A lot of my friends have kids. I've been around little kids much of my life. And when the fun adopted kid didn't meet your expectations because you're like, well, I'm progressive and I watched YouTube videos about it, so of course I can handle problem kids. It's not the boy's fault that he has issues. That's something you are born with and that is chemical that you cannot change. But he should have gone to somebody who could take care of that in the first place instead of somebody who put it on fucking YouTube. Who did it to make money. Who made most of her following having that be the big thing, that being the big gimmick of her channel. And it's disgusting. And I already don't like family vloggers, but this is just an even bigger issue. And a bigger issue with our government that needs to be changed. You know, there's so much wrong in the world right now. And this is a very negative video, and I'm sorry, but I wanted to do the audio and I wanted to talk about it because I want this to get around, because she's one YouTuber. She's one person, okay? When this is happening around the US, everywhere. And in some states, it's even so bad that depending on the race of the child, from the last time I checked, because I Googled this after hearing it in the show a couple years ago, so a few years ago, you get more money depending on the race of the child from the government. I hope that is changed since the last time I checked it. I didn't fact check it when I'm doing this right now. Please do for me. But that is a thing that if isn't happening anymore, thank God, but it sure as hell was. And I had to find out about it from a TV show and then Google it and see that it was true at the time. There's so much more wrong here than these spoiled people milking this kid for money. Because people do this all the time, to where that one family is just one family out of the entirety of the US. You know, there's at least 100 more, if not more. And that's what I want to bring a bigger light to. That's what I want to change. I want to try to look into this more to see if there's like something I can try to do to help. I'm not saying it as a savior complex, but I'm saying these poor kids, family vloggers, and the foster care system shouldn't be somebody's paycheck. It should be used with what it's intended for, to help the kid and help the family take care of a child, not the other way around. That's all I have to say. I'm sorry, this isn't like a fun, happy video, but I had to get my words out there. So yeah, normal happy me video coming up on Wednesdays, but yeah, so as always, guys, I'll see you next time. It doesn't feel right shilling my patrons and the art at the end of the video, so I'm just gonna leave it here. So bye.